everybody. I am Mike Rains, aka Poker and Politics, and welcome to another episode of Adventures in HellwQrld. Sarge is off on a secret mission, so this week we are joined by Karma.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Al.
and the mysterious L.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, my beautiful babies!
It's Santa L.
You can't spell Santa without L.
Exactly right. This is 100% true.
It's a silent L.
Yes. I'm just imagining Santa with an S-L-A-N. Oh, man. So yeah, this week, you would think that the holiday season would cause the amount of headlines in the QAnon world to slowly decrease, but you would be wrong. Things have gotten even crazier, and we've had more fun and more LARPing from our QAnon friends and family. Before we get into all of that, let's play a content warning.
Content warning. The Adventures in HellwQrld podcast talks in depth about QAnon, which means we have to talk about all kinds of child abuse and violence against people. Listener discretion advised.
So, the first thing on our plate is the continuing saga of the Negative 48 crew in Dallas, which is something that Karma has been covering incredibly extensively. So, I figured we would just this would be Karma's ability to just vent and just get this off her chest from her existence, monitoring these people and this just absolute madness. So. The first thing I was going to ask you, Karma, is how big was this movement at the start when they all first converged on Daily Plaza, and how big is it now? Like, how many people have left? How many people have joined since then, and all that good stuff?
So when they first arrived down there, they were basically in the hundreds. Turned up on the first week that they were there. I know within the first 3 or 4 days, there was a lot of people that left. At the moment, it's really hard to sort of take a guess, but it's definitely down in numbers. I would say it's under 50, that's for sure. But the problem is people come and go. So they are allowed to go home for whatever reason, whether it's work or family or whatever, and they come back. So it's hard to keep track of numbers when they're going and coming back.
Just before we get too deep into Mike's list of questions, I feel like I want to get in here and ask the layman question, since we're going to be getting into it really nitty and gritty. For people who are listening who for some reason might not be completely plugged in, what exactly is happening at Dealey Plaza? What is the elevator pitch, Karma, that you would give to somebody to explain the phenomenon that's happening in Dealey Plaza?
Well, they originally went down there to see JFK come back to life and JFK Jr. But it's kind of spun off into, and it's still part of every other conspiracy that they're watching a movie, I guess, but these ones are more extras in a movie. So they're playing their own role in a movie.
So they believe that this incredibly specific event, in this case, the resurrection of JFK Jr., their messiah figure for whatever reason, and they're getting their jollies out of it by being participants in the story, but as sycophants to the soon-to-be arrived messiah figure.
Yeah, and also, I mean, they've got, everybody's playing their own role. JFK is playing 100 different people. So when you see somebody, it is probably JFK Jr. or JFK in a mask. He's apparently played Trump. He's played everybody in their story at some point. Trump, they believe that they're literally Trump's soldiers, I guess. They're doing all this for Trump.
So this is. Did they ever explain the actual connection between JFK Jr. and Trump, and why there's basically that through line between a president from the 1960s who was a liberal and his liberal kid, and Trump, who's like a right-wing racist xenophobe. Do they ever try to square that, or is it just left out for the group to just come to their own conclusions about why they're all one big happy family like that?
So that's where that whole Jesus strand video that they've created comes into play. It basically goes through who's who, who's related to who. So they believe there's some sort of relation going on between JFK and JFK Jr. They're related somehow. I've only watched bits and pieces of it. It's really hard to watch. It's really, really hard to watch. But they are pushing that at the moment to indoctrinate more people.
So they actually think that Trump and JFK have like a family tie, like there's like some like sort of bloodline, or at least like relationship through marriage.
Yeah, it's all a bloodline thing. So that Jesus strand basically just goes through the whole bloodline of, Trump is related to this one, General Flynn is related to this one, and it's pretty, yeah.
Oh, this is the General Patton is Trump's dad thing.
Yes.
Okay, so, good to know. Good to know. I'm good to know I'm on the right road of insanity here.
Yeah.
Is it any surprise to anyone how much that these, even like the deep in the weeds offshoots of QAnon stuff like this Dealey Plaza ordeal, how just entranced they all are by the idea of hereditary power, like power in your strong blood.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, it's like so funny that like this American conspiracy theory is about a king.
Well, they call Trump the king of the world.
Oh, of course they do. Oh, how could they not?
So he is the king of the world. And I'm not sure if you know, but currently James Wood is playing Biden.
Oh yeah, that's Ghost Ezra. That's like a big thing Ghost Ezra's been bringing up a lot.
So that's part of their whole story as well. But yeah, Trump is king of the world, and all this is going to lead him to be king of the world, and it's all going to come out, and that's basically what they're waiting for. Trump and JFK, they're waiting. The way they say it is, at the end of the movie, the credits will roll, and we're going to see who's playing who. So yeah, we're waiting for the credits to roll, I guess.
I love the fact that these conspiracy theories that have been around for forever had in like the 90s and the 2000s consolidated around the idea of this terrifying group called the One World Government that would be created by the New World Order. And now cut to today, where literally we have a conspiracy theory that hopes that their hero will become the leader of the One World Government, that he will be literally the king of the world, and all other governments will fall before him. That's great. That's so great.
I also love the idea that all of these people are actors, and at some point that's going to be revealed, because it lets us do stunt casting. we can talk about who we'd cast in our roles. Like, I think Tom Hanks would be a pretty good Joe Biden. I'm just going to throw that out there. Yeah. I feel like he could give a very subtle and muted performance.
Yeah. Oh god. So who's Kamala Harris?
Well, according to Q, since they insisted, she's obviously a man. Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Williams is Kamala Harris to the QAnon crowd because they are a bunch of racist, transphobic assholes.
I just saw a thing like right before we went on to record that the First Lady of France is going to start suing people for calling her a man. So apparently that's like a worldwide phenomenon of just calling first ladies and female politicians men. So that just I was like, wow, like this is everywhere. This never
absolute
stops.
Insanity.
They do it. I know they do it to the one that's in New Zealand. She's a man as well.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh god, and they hate the Prime Minister of New Zealand because like they locked down so hard and they've kept COVID out of their shores. So like effective lockdowns and stopping COVID and using vaccines and lockdowns to do it, no bueno. So oh my god, of course they're going to call her a man.
Well, even our Premier of Victoria, even his wife's apparently a man.
Oh, of course. All women are men. I still just I want these people to go to their high school yearbooks and just look through it and see the 80% men, the 20% women that were in all the classes. I just want them to like live in that world where the demographics are that skewed that in order to create women to be famous, you have to have it has to be trans women. They have to be quote unquote.
It's so weird if you try to piece together like what their ideal world would be like, because it sounds like it's this incredibly like male-dominated, homoerotic, feudal monarchy under Donald Trump, which is like a weird place to want to be. Like, oh man, when I think of utopia, like I'm tilling potatoes in the field for old Donny boy, and it's just me and 20 other dudes shirtless in the farms. It's like
with our wives. My wife, I'm sure, is a woman, but everybody else's wife, I'm not so sure about. just
some sort of horrible secret police that just go around doing like dreadful gender checks.
Yes,
and a bunch of dudes just being like, "This is the perfect way. Got to keep our bathrooms safe."
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking lunatics.
Yes, just absolute monsters and weirdos. So when you said that hundreds at the start, was it like over 100, 200? Like, how big was it at the start, do you think? Because now that it's down to 50, I just want to get an idea for how much they've lost in the size of the crowd.
I'd definitely say there was over 200.
Okay.
But I don't know how many of those actually went home that first weekend, like straight away. Like they were only there for that, weekend and went home. I know a lot left after the third or fourth day. That had, like basically booked and stayed in their own hotels and stuff. They went home third or fourth. But it has, over the last few weeks, the numbers have definitely dropped.
So basically, they that initial rush was just people who were there for the payoff, and when they didn't get it, they were like, "Well, -48. Thanks for the fun weekend in Daily Plaza, but we're out now. This was just our little vacay to see John come back, walk up from the grassy knoll. But now that didn't happen, we're done. And like the 50 or so they have left are now no longer actually like here, kind of like for JFK and JFK Jr. It's more now we're just creating a religion here based around -48 being our superhero leader or something.
Pretty much like that. And the ones that went home, they've kind of been, obviously there's been a lot of division between them all, and they've called, they've actually even gone into online chats and had arguments with -48, and they've been basically told that, they're non-believers in God, and they basically have said that when all this happens, you're going to have to get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness to -48 for being right.
So at this point, we've brought him up a couple of times. We know how large the group was, at least at the start. We sort of know what they're interested in. So let's talk a little bit more about their enigmatic leader. We've brought him up a couple of times on the podcast here so far. -48. Karma, what's the deal with this guy? Like, what's his whole vibe?
He's look, he likes attention. He definitely loves attention. I think that's been a big part for him being down there. I mean, he's definitely not sane by any means whatsoever. But the attention, he's definitely loving the attention to the point where I've heard him say multiple times that when this is all over, he's not going to be able to walk down the street because people are going to mob him because they're going to love him so much and adore him. So he definitely likes the attention that he gets from it all.
And like the things he's doing to control the group, because you've talked about like sleep deprivation before and the gummies. So like, because on the one hand he's a cult leader that wants adulation, but on the other hand he's also like controlling.
He's definitely controlling. I don't know how many times I've been in a live chat with him, and if someone talks over him or interrupts him, he will just shut down the chat and just leave.
I'm taking my cult ball and going cult home.
Oh, yeah,
You can't talk.
he will, like, sometimes he'll just sort of give it back to him and say, don't speak over me. And then other times he'll just won't even say a word, just shut down the chat and leave. And then all his lot of like inner circle are all like, oh, he'll be back, and they sort of all, stick up for him and make out. But he left for that reason. Because he's like, don't talk over me, don't interrupt me, I'm speaking,
Yeah. It must be so brutal having like sycophants like that are just like, they're just so desperate to placate him. There's nothing like that's going to come up later in the podcast about Donald Trump, I promise you. But so and then finally we can't talk about him without bringing up the gematria, which is kind of what created was that like a big thing that like got these people into him, like his decoding of the prophecies.
So that's again in the Jesus Strand 1 and 2. He basically, there's sections on it where he uses it to actually explain the bloodlines and who's what, and and you cannot have a conversation with him. Like, people have tried to speak to him, even people that obviously left Dallas and weren't happy, tried to actually have a conversation. You cannot have a conversation with this man because he starts throwing in the numbers and starts talking in riddles and rhymes. You cannot have a normal conversation with this man.
So he's just working so hard on that angle of being cryptic and mysterious, and you gotta unravel the puzzle of what he's saying. So like, I feel like he's playing that up a lot.
Speaking of which, quick gematria overview for people who may not know what the hell we're talking about. Gematria is some simple cipher hokum by which you convert letters in words and phrases into numbers, and then in comparing what other words or phrases share that numerical value, you can draw incredibly broad conclusions about the future or whatever.
Yeah.
It's got it. They use two different. You could either do it in the King's English, or you can do it in Hebrew, right? Or some other version of Jewish alphabet.
Jewish gematria, English gematria, and quote unquote simple gematria. Which I think on a few podcasts ago we described simple gematria as like the free to play version, and the other two are like the pay to win versions.
Yeah, because I watched a bit of the Jesus Strand before because they had it on. They were playing it in one of the live chats. And basically he connects a lot of what he says back to the Q drops. Yeah. So obviously it's all tied back to that, which I was watching a bit of it going, I still don't get how you tie it back to that drop. But anyway, we'll let it go with that, just as I said, because he starts throwing around those numbers and it's just like, huh?
Yeah. Well, I can totally see how gematria would work out so perfectly for them because the Q drops are numbered. So you just have to come up with a phrase. That phrase has a number value. Then you look through the Q drops. And if the phrase kind of matches that Q drop at all, boom, you've got a connection. You've got a hint. God's talking through Q and me in code, and we're good. We're all set. So
because he's basically saying that, gematria is basically God's way of talking to them in code.
Yeah.
So, and I watched one of them.
Of course it is, because it would really behoove God to be super sneaky about it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you'd need a geometric calculator to actually work out everything God's telling you.
Yeah. So, who are the QAnon groups that are supporting negative 48? Because I've heard so many people going after him and resenting what he's doing and just being like, this doesn't represent what we're all about. This isn't what QAnon's doing. We're not cool with what you're doing here, negative 48. You're a bad guy. So who's actually sticking up for him?
So he has his own little circle of QAnon influencers. So, which are Mike Penny, you've got Charlie Freak. They've got their own circle of people, but they also Ghost Ezra, Whiplash. Who else is the HS Retoucher? Another one, because he does all the JFK. So he's one of their big fans. I'm sure he's loving it at the moment. He's getting the most attention he's probably ever had. with all them sharing around everything that he does. But they are constantly, posting Ghost Ezra's Whiplashes, and Whiplash just throws out the most rubbish you've ever seen in your life, and they seem to love him.
I'm stunned that like the hardest LARPer of them all, again, the guy that's James Woods is playing Joe Biden. I'm stunned that they'd love Ghost Ezra. And given that Ghost Ezra has been so wholly rejected by the rest of QAnon, I can totally see why he would embrace Negative 48 and his community. Because he's just looking for anyone to be his friend now. Because after go ahead.
Well, it was funny because they were really like sharing his posts and stuff. And then at one stage, he put up something nasty about Negative 48. And Negative 48 actually brought it up in a live stream, but sort of brushed it off because he said he still liked him. So, and kept sharing it. So I was a bit surprised by that because, he usually doesn't take things very well. He usually fully attacks anyone that attacks him.
I guess he just thinks Ghost Ezra's too big to try to like mess with, so he's gonna be like, "Yeah, me and Ghosty are cool. He just said something he didn't mean, and he was just angry that day. We're still bros. It's
that
all
scamp,
good." Yes,
that rascal. He like tussles his hair.
Yes.
Well, even Lynn Wood said that it was a load of rubbish, and they still share everything he posts as well. So.
Yeah, so he's a cloud chaser. So like, even if Ghost or Lynn or anyone who's got like a big like 6-figure follower account, even if they go at him, Negative 48 isn't going to go back at them because they're too big and he doesn't want to offend them, and he knows that his audience is cool with those folks because Lynn's like just a hardcore, like just hardcore Christianity, QAnon, and Ghost is all about the LARPy silliness. So, of course, again, I'd be remiss not to bring up the fact that Ghost is also a Nazi. So, just gotta spoiler alert: Ghost equals Nazi. So, them being fans of him is a terrible look for everyone involved. But so, yeah, it's interesting that so Mike Penny, what I saw, you sent me a link to his thing, and it was just like marketing legacy communications or something, the most like boring thing, but they had like 65,000 subscribers on YouTube, so obviously they don't want to run that guy off. So what kind of stuff does he post on the internet?
He's sort of tight. Mike Penny seems to have his fingers in everything. I don't know. Everywhere you look, Mike Penny's just in everybody's streams, or he's running streams with a whole lot of different groups. He originally started, I think, in 2012, where he was just basically grifting off people. And then he manages to get himself into Charlie Freak streams. He gets himself into, I think I said, the Patriot News Network.
Yep.
He's with them. He's got another group that are quite violent. Like when they get it, it's just all guys, and they get in there and they talk about, guns and, their First Amendment rights, and no one's going to
Second Amendment. But yeah.
They talk about everything, first and second.
Oh, okay.
No one's going to come near me with a vaccine, or, I know what I'd do if they do. And, and they're quite a violent bunch, like to sit and listen to. I'm sort of just going, wow, okay. And then somehow Negative 48 got involved with these groups, with Mike Penny. I mean, Mike Penny basically said that he brought Negative 48 into the group.
Oh, thank God for that! I'm so glad that that we actually have people actively trying to spread like the attempt to grow a real life cult out of QAnon. So the last thing I wanted to bring up here is what's the story about them trying to make their homemade hydroxychloroquine? Because of course there have been COVID outbreaks in their community because of who they are and what they're doing. But what's the story with that, and how dangerous has that become?
Well, it was basically mentioned in one of the live chats by one of his inner circle. As a guy sort of was talking about that he had COVID, and he's been told he's not allowed to come to work, and he didn't want to get tested and all that sort of stuff. And in amongst that, the conversation sort of got brought up that they were making their own HCQ, and that, he didn't say they had COVID, but obviously he was just like, we've been making our own here. So, you can get recipes and you can make it yourself. So, obviously I think the biggest concern with that group is if they're making their own homemade stuff and they're distributing it around, that, it could possibly end up, someone sick, dying, I guess. So that's probably the main concern with that group.
Yeah,
I do love that. I do love that. In order to prove how much they love freedom and their run up to JFK Jr. coming back, they've started a drug ring. they're literally just making bathtub chemicals and selling or distributing them amongst a group of people.
God, it's so messed up. So, speaking of another group of people that have absolutely not contracted COVID but are a little under the weather, let's get into the news.
From the digital headlines to the digital front lines, it's Q's in the news.
So, Mike, I heard that an old friend that we haven't heard from in a while has recently returned, thanks to our buddy QAnon, and that friend is Anthrax. Just when you thought it was safe to send a package to someone,
yes,
here comes Big Papa Thrax. It's Return of the Thrax.
So, Clay Clark, who runs a rival QAnon convention event against QAnon John, the Reawaken America tour. This is the tour where Michael Flynn got in front of a crowd and said that America should only have one religion. So this is a really good, wholesome group of people. They had a convention in Dallas, of all places. And after this convention was over, numerous people in the group, including Javon Pulitzer, who is a big-time Arizona audit guy, have fallen sick. And these people have decided that the illness they have suffered from is anthrax. It is not COVID. We don't know where you would have possibly have gotten the idea that it was COVID. It's anthrax that we've been infected with. So now there's been talk. Karma, you had the name of the guy who maybe be getting put on a ventilator?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wow, way to put Karma on the spot.
I know.
Got a heads up.
I'm so sorry. This guy runs the Frog News Network, which is all you need to know about him, which made me laugh my ass off when I heard that name for a group.
His name's Doug.
His name is, Doug.
His name is Doug. I don't know why. That just hit me so hard. Poor Doug.
Doug Kaesmer, is that it?
Kaesmer, or I don't know how to say his last name either, but it is along those lines.
Right. Poor old Doug. And his last post on Telegram was, I think I might have to be intubated, and he hasn't posted since.
Yeah.
Hey man, Anthrax is a bitch.
Yes, Anthrax is brutal. Yeah, that's
so. What sort of proof do they have? Are they bringing any sort of Anthrax-related proof to the table?
Some of the one of the big bits of proof they have was a video of lights that had some sort of mist or fog going through those lights, which they believe was the nefarious evil liberals, deep state people hosing down the crowd with anthrax. Clay Clark, the maker, the guy who ran the event, declared that this effect was actually smoke machines from a local church, and he is not going to accuse that local church of having doused his audience with anthrax. So Clay Clark himself is not exactly totally cool with this whole story about an anthrax attack happening at his convention.
He's team local church all the way.
Yes, he is # team local church.
But when I actually first heard about Doug, and there was another one as well, Trina, I think her name was, from another network, it was actually said in a live chat that they had both contracted COVID at the Clay Clark event. And then once it was then posted about a couple of others that could possibly be anthrax, then their story automatically changed to anthrax as well.
Yeah, I'm looking now at a post from Joel Altman, who is another Arizona audit. Votes were rigged. Trump won, promoting asshole. And he says, in an effort to be clear and transparent, I don't know if it was anthrax, comma, some other derivative, comma, or a spike protein. I love that he can't say the word COVID, so he just has to use a thing that you associate with COVID, because we all know about spike proteins. And just, I love the idea that these people were stabbed with just a rogue spike protein, just got them. Just, I've been hit by a spike protein. Fuck, it hurts. Shrapnel from a spike protein.
There's got to be some sort of joke about my protein spike somewhere in there, but for the life of me, I just don't have it in me to try to. I don't have it in me to try to dig it up.
Yeah.
So these people definitely do not have COVID, which is a huge surprise, because I doubt any of them are vaccinated, despite word from on high from the king overlord of all heavens himself, Donald Trump, who has come straight out and endorsed the booster shot. He's like, yeah, that shit is the bomb.
Yes. Yeah, so our boy Donald Trump, at one of his sparsely attended rallies that he's been doing with Bill O'Reilly, and they're sparsely attended because you actually have to pay to see Bill and Trump hanging out together.
Every seat has sold out. Just don't look into that.
Yes, 100% sellouts. Don't trust your lying eyes. Who are you going to believe? Your orange daddy, the king of the world, or the video of the arena that we're currently in. But yeah, at one point, Bill O'Reilly and Trump were just yucking it up, having a chat, and Trump told O'Reilly that he had received his original 2 shots, and that he had received his booster, and that the booster is great and everyone should get it, and that he should get credit for all of what's happening because he was the one who fast-tracked Operation Warp Speed, and that the vaccine has saved millions of lives worldwide, and that people should not be against the vaccine, because if you are against the vaccine, you are, quote-unquote, playing into their hands. And after this all came out, the Biden, I don't know if they're the illegitimate President Biden, declared that he supports President Trump talking about the booster, and that he's glad that this is one rare area of agreement that the Biden administration and the Trump administration have, that boosters are great. And then, because Trump can't, like, the moment you flatter Trump, he is just the happiest clam in the sea. Trump was just like, hey, it's awesome that Biden complimented me about the booster shots and Operation Warp Speed, because all of that shit is great, and I love it. And I want to reiterate my love of boosters and Operation Warp Speed. So there you have it, everybody. Boosters, vaccines, Donald Trump. Just mash those things together, because I want all the credit in the world for those things. Hashtag Trump vaccine.
Except it's a 5th-dimensional chess psyop.
Oh, yeah. So we have 2 very distinct camps when it comes to this shit. You have the anti-Trump miserable Republicans who have yearned to get out from under his boot. And you also have the QAnon people that are just a little too militant about the vaccines. And those people are like, fuck this guy. I hate him. He sold us out. I saw Cernovich made a post about how he never wants Trump in public life again. There's all these people talking about how they want to vote for DeSantis now in the primary because Trump's a cuck. And then you have the other side, the QAnon side, who are explaining that Trump's just pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. He's just doing what he has to do for optics to placate the normies, because if he came out against the vaccines now, they would just destroy him, and that would be bad. And it's this whole ridiculous thing where they always talk about how if we didn't have a vaccine, the lockdowns would have never ended, but Trump tricked the deep state by getting out a vaccine really quickly. Now, you shouldn't take the vaccine, and Trump always is speaking in codes, much like God does through gematria. And everyone knows that Trump really hates the vaccine, but he's just saying these things for the sake of making everyone happy. And I actually saw a post today where someone was explaining that Trump being pro-vaccine is, in the end, just going to kill more liberals than it will kill conservatives because, and I quote, the boss knows we're not dummies. So the boss is just sending out the word to take the vaccine, but we know that he doesn't really mean it, and he knows that we won't listen to him. So maybe there were some nervous Nellies that are moderates or whatever. They were on the fence. They hear Trump's okay with it. They get the vaccine. They're dead. We don't care about them. Boom. And only the hardcore MAGA folks who can read between the lines, we're still alive and we're still running America, and it's all great.
Seems like a bold strategy to do your masterstroke in such a way that like it disenfranchises people that were otherwise into you and causes like a weird splintering in your own base of all these people that are just like, I used to like Trump, but now he's cucking off about vaccines like some sort of cuck.
Yes.
So, I mean, I guess, but this is for the same people who assumed that COVID was a Chinese bioweapon that they decided to drop on themselves first.
Yes.
Got him.
Yes.
Good stuff. So, I mean, I guess this is one of the rare instances where, like, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the podcast myself, but I will speak for myself and say one of the rare instances where I too agree with Trump. Go Booster.
Yeah.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Am I right, folks?
Right, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just feel like he is in a situation where his lizard brain knows that the vaccine is good, and he knows that, like, he obviously has like seen the charts. Like, people have pointed it out to him, like 70% of Americans have gotten the vaccine and all this stuff. So he knows that 70% is a big number, and no matter how angry and dumb his base is, his brain just wants that 70% to love him. So he's just going to talk about it for forever, no matter how much it makes like that the minority of people who don't want vaccines angry. He's just like 70% bigger than other percent. So they need to give me credit. Period. That's it. That's just where he's at.
Oh, I didn't know that Trump was a Southern gentleman.
In your neck of the woods, in the allegedly real nation of Australia, like how have they been handling the vaccine, Karma?
I mean, I think we're around the 90-something% vaccinated. A lot of us don't have the booster yet. We're still waiting for that sort of, it was like, you've got to wait 6 months.
Right. You guys got the vaccine later than America did.
Yeah. So thanks to the government and their shitty rollout, yes.
I read a lot of stuff about Morrison, people being very unhappy with him about how the vaccines were being distributed.
Oh, don't worry. He made sure he got his first, though. While the rest of us were just going, well, even now, like, it's very complicated down here. No one knows what's what. I've got an immune disorder, and they said 4 months for us. I rang a couple of doctors the other day. One said, no, you can't have it yet. And then the other one went, oh, yeah, you can have it. And it's really confusing for us all down here. Like, we're like, yes, no, yes. Are we allowed? No, yes. So, and they just they've backtracked on everything. Like, pretty much if you go out, you'll see majority of people aren't wearing masks again. Some are, some aren't. Then we all had the vaccine certificates, and they were saying, people aren't going to be allowed to go into certain places without it. They backtracked on that about a week ago as well, and said that you can now go into majority of places without it. So, yeah, we're kind of all over the place down here.
Man, sounds like America South. I mean, it's just, we're absolutely
the difference is she said that they were like 90-something% vaccinated.
Yes, yeah, they're actually taking this seriously.
Yeah, good luck getting that to go in the good old US of A.
Oh God, no. Oh, oof.
And what was funny though, like the younger generation. So when it was allowed for, I think it was like 15 to about 18 or 21 or something, they ran out quicker than anyone else to get the vaccination.
Way to go, Australian youth. Way to be on the ball.
Yeah, I think they just wanted their lives back after being in lockdown for so long, I think. And they were just like, yep, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would actually assume that probably has something to the incredibly stringent lockdown that's been taking place there. It probably has something to do with everyone's warm embrace of the vaccine.
Yeah, like, hey, if we get the vaccine, this shit will be over. Fine, we're doing it. And then you still have like the 10% of chuckleheads who are just like, no, boo.
And they're still out there protesting every weekend. Like,
of course they are.
You know, and we're not in lockdown anymore. We, as I said, you can pretty much go anywhere without showing that you've been vaccinated, except for there's a few certain places you have to show. But you can pretty much, I have not been asked for it anywhere that I've been. And as most people aren't wearing a mask. Some are, some aren't. But yeah, and it's just like our cases haven't dropped. They're around the same. They dropped a little bit and now they're back up again. So, I mean, I said the other day, if they were to try to put us back in lockdown again, I think all hell would break loose down here.
Oh,
well, luckily, and this would be entirely because I live in North America, specifically the United States, which is the capital of everything. It's very cold across the world right now. Across the whole world, it's cold and wintry and snowy in Christmas time. So no one's going to be wanting to go out to gather anyway.
No, they'll just huddle indoors. That'll be so much better. There's no way.
Everybody will be rosy-cheeked by fires.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it'll be our turn because we're about, in summer at the moment.
We still don't trust that you're actually a real nation. So
no, I know.
Yes.
After actually, yeah, and someone actually from Australia, I saw one of your posts the other day, and then went, "Huh? I've never heard that before," and went and looked it up and went, "Oh my god, what?" We don't exist.
So I have a question that is not related to QAnon at all, but I can't resist because of the time of year. Karma, what is Christmas marketing like in Australia? Is it like Santa Claus in like beach gear, or do they just say fuck it and just still give you big roly poly Santa Claus wearing 12 layers?
Yeah, it's still the same.
They're just like fuck it. you do not get a tailored Santa experience in Australia.
Yeah, no, and we've had Christmases here where it's that hot that like Christmas Day could be so hot, and you're all just going like melting basically. I mean, we haven't had one for a while, but yeah, Santa's in his full suit, regardless.
Oh, that'd be great. The greatest thing in the world. You have a mall Santa who's just like dying of heat stroke because he's just in this giant. He's like, God damn it! Can they just let me like wear like a red polo shirt or something? Anything? I mean, does it really have to be the full getup?
Some parent like puts their little kid down on his lap and they're just like, Santa, you're damp.
He's like, of course I'm in this goddamn suit. And we have all these lights around me for the holiday photo. Of course I'm sweating buckets. He's just chugging Gatorade. Just trying to...
He looks like one of those like PlayStation NBA games where everyone's just like constantly glistening.
Yes.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right. So speaking of horrible things that you wish you didn't have to see, I hear Kyle Rittenhouse has taken something of a victory lap around this wonderful country of ours.
Yeah.
What's the deal with famous and renowned murderer Kyle Rittenhouse?
So Turning Point USA, which is yet another one of these right-wing grifting conventions, had Kyle Rittenhouse as a featured speaker at one of their rallies, and his introduction was like nothing short of a conquering hero. This was basically Stone Cold Steve Austin sauntering to the ring after winning the world title. He had an entrance music. Like
somebody threw beers at him, which he shotgunned.
And then he was arrested for underage drinking, so he's going to get more of a punishment for that.
No, wait, when the cop showed up to arrest him, he just sprayed him with the hose from the beer truck.
Yes. But yeah, like they had like lights, those like banners of like screens around the bowls of convention centers. Like in the bowl, they had like Kyle Rittenhouse like in like jaunty moving letters, and he just like came out to a roaring crowd of people that were cheering for him, and he gave a basically just a speech where he talked about how he might sue all the mean liberal media for calling him a white supremacist and all that stuff, and saying that the shootings were racially motivated when they totally weren't. And
he was just protecting that Mida key or whatever.
Yes, right, exactly. So yeah, he hit all the notes that they wanted to hear about guns good, media bad, and all that stuff. And we now have America's first like legitimate celebrity murderer. I mean, this is a really wild thing. I mean, George Zimmerman has to be so mad that the Trayvon Martin case was long ago, before America had fully embraced absolute madness. And that dude's just been like, I don't know, going to like, he's like, to continue the wrestling analogy, he's like the Virgil at the convention sitting by himself at his empty table, while all the hot celebrity murderers like Kyle Rittenhouse have a line out the door and around the block, getting autographs and selfies from all his adoring fans. And he's like, "Oh, I remember when I killed people and got away with it. Why does no one care about me anymore?" I mean, it's just.
I remember that time that DMX said that he was going to beat the shit out of him when they were trying to put together a celebrity boxing thing.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, DMX could not keep the fact that he was going to break, and I quote, every rule in boxing when he was fighting that guy. So Judge Zimmerman pulled out.
Yeah. That's where you gotta play nicey nice up until they ring the bell, and then you just actually shoot for a double leg and just get on top of them and start dropping elbows, and just being like, this ain't a charity boxing match, motherfucker. Wham! How you like them apples? So yeah, this is where we are as a country now, where we actually have someone who is famous for having gone to a protest armed and then managed to get into altercations where they used deadly force in quote unquote self-defense. And that's cause to be celebrated and to get speaking gigs. And
yeah, I was about to say, and not just not just famous, but famous enough where a certain subset of people will pay to see you talk about stuff, even though Kyle Rittenhouse is only 18. He can't possibly have anything to say. Like he's only famous for what had to have been the biggest fuck up of his life that he just happened to skate clean on. And I don't really know what he could say that anyone should want to pay to listen to. That is terrifying.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 18-year-olds are young people who are, for the most part, very incoherent and dumb. And if they have a talent or a trick or something that makes them incredibly famous at that age, I still really don't want them to be like, then segueing from that to some other like field of like commentary. I don't need to hear from like some basketball player who goes right from high school to the NBA. They're probably not going to tell me how to vote or like how to deal with the issues that are challenging and affecting our world.
Yeah, but I mean, at least you would hope that those guys would have anecdotes, right? Like at the very least, like if you see some sort of like child actor or whatever, or some like, up and coming like sports star, they'll probably at least have some funny stories that they're too stupid to not just tell you immediately before they get like a good publicist. Right. So like, oh man, one time I was doing blow with Hillary Duff, and then somebody like there won't be somebody going in there waving their arms, just being like, no, that was funny. It's a funny joke about that.
and also if they're like talented at something, they probably have like a little bit of a story about like how they honed their craft at that thing, how they got good at athletics or singing or acting. Whereas
imagine Kyle Rittenhouse's anecdotes.
Whereas Kyle Rittenhouse's anecdote is, I went to this protest and I had a gun and then shit happened and I shot people and then I ran away and then I got good lawyers and I got away with it. I mean,
he's like, oh man, this one time I had this really good mac and cheese. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
to like a roaring crowd.
Yeah.
We also love mac and cheese.
Yeah, mac and cheese, USA, USA.
And then the light boards that you were mentioning earlier just seamlessly switch over to a mac and cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great.
Oh God.
See, but the problem is real Kyle Rittenhouse is not as entertaining as the Kyle Rittenhouse I'm portraying here.
Right, exactly. Real Kyle Rittenhouse is literally being told by his handlers, here is your speech, don't go off teleprompter, talk slowly and enunciate, and then smile and wave at the camera for like 2 minutes after you're done speaking, and then get off the stage and go back into the cocoon we've created for you so that we can milk this cash cow from your celebrity that you've attained via murder.
So this would be a good time for me to ask Karma a question that again isn't directly QAnon related. It's more just being fascinated with her being from the literal other side of the world, and that is like obviously like America's dumb fuck problems make a lot of headlines. So the general public in Australia, would you say that they see Americans as just like total clowns? Like how does your media portray us? Are we just like the buffoons that happen to have their finger on the world's throat or whatever?
Do you know, I can't even answer that. I don't even turn on my TV.
So all of your media is too hyper focused for you to get a general read on how America is perceived by the Australian public.
I don't really pay attention to anything Australian, to be honest. I probably know, and how about that? I probably know more about your country and what's going on than what I do.
We call that being red, white, and blue pilled. So congratulations, honorary American citizen. You've been red, white, and blue pilled. We do know more about our country than your country.
I mean, I can't stand any of my politicians that are in my country, I guess. So I'll you know, I did not vote for a very long time, and it's against the law not to vote here. So I basically didn't vote for over 20 years before they actually caught me and told me to vote. And the last time I did vote, I drew dicks on the ballots. So I don't know. I don't know what much more I can say about that. I just don't. They all say the same bullshit, and you know, it's just the same.
How serious was it when you got pinched for not voting? I'm just picturing a couple of like incredibly polite officers.
So they got me when I actually changed address. They've now linked it to registrations, car registrations. So they got me when I moved, and they basically sent me a letter and said, "Okay, we know you haven't voted for this amount of time. If you vote in the next coming election, we'll let it go." Basically, all the fines that you would have accumulated over that time. So, yeah, I went and voted, but just drew lovely pictures all over the ballot.
Just recently, you haven't been voting, yeah? You should probably do that, all right? Cool.
Well, it was funny because recently on Twitter, someone brought up voting, and someone in Australia, and I actually said the same thing. I go, I didn't vote, and I drew some nice pictures on the ballot. And next minute, our voting system here, who basically is on Twitter, they obviously scan things that with the word vote in them. And next minute, they came and commented underneath. And they were pretty good. They were joking around, but they were like, you should really tick the boxes rather than draw stuff.
If I was
the conversation went on all day. It was hysterical, like the stuff that they were saying. They were joking around and stuff, but they still kept pointing out, and I said to them, so if I tick the boxes, can I still draw as well? I was sort of stirring them up as well. But it was really funny that they're, like I said to them, how did you even find this whole thread? And they're like, oh, we scanned the word vote. Like this, and I'm like, oh, okay then. So yeah,
that is super wild that there are people monitoring the word vote on social media.
Yeah, I know, and it was a public holiday to here in Australia, and I was like, oh well, in Victoria for me, and I'm like, why are you even working today? And they're like, oh, we're in Canberra. We don't get that public holiday. And I'm like, oh, sucks for you. Like, I was really staring them up. So, but it was such a funny conversation to actually, me just mentioning it, and they just jumped in going, you should really vote properly. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We said tick the boxes, not dick the boxes.
Well, well, exactly. But, we're forced to vote here. Otherwise, we get a fine. So it's kind of like, and isn't that funny how we're forced to vote here, and if you don't, you get fined. But these people are like, I shouldn't be forced to get a vaccine. But
yeah, man. Us Americans have true freedom. We don't have to vote in shit if we don't want to.
and if Republicans have their say, no one will be allowed to vote in anything ever again. So yeah, we're working real hard on going the other way with this thing. So,
but in order to stave that off, ironically, it would be for the best if Republicans did, in fact, just stop voting.
Yes.
Like if they could see it in their heart to finally agree that everything is rigged against them and to just stay home, because why waste the energy in a losing fight?
Yes.
Well, speaking of that, I just read a post that just said, since we're on the whole Kyle and the voting thing, that basically says Kyle is a crisis actor and that he's trying to take down Lynn, and that Flynn is going to run for president, and that's basically being set up by the deep state. And that if he wins, the whole system will be rigged and he'll be worse than Bush or the Clintons.
Michael Flynn will be a worse president than them?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I heard that name right, because Lynn and Flynn sound the same. So I just wanted to make sure I knew who was the bad guy here. I saw someone claiming that Kyle Rittenhouse was one of the kids that was not killed at Sandy Hook. Yeah. So, I mean, they go everywhere with that kid. One quick thing about Michael Flynn before we get to ye old mailbag. The 1-6 committee was like, hey, Michael Flynn, we're going to need some phone records from you, and we probably want you to testify. And Michael Flynn went on Fox News and was like, I'll give them all my records. I got nothing to hide. I don't give a shit. And then smash cut to yesterday, Michael Flynn filing a lawsuit against the 1-6 committee, saying that going after his phone records and all his other stuff violates his First and Fifth Amendment rights, and that they're not allowed to do these things. So,
serving him papers, allowing them to take his evidence of crimes violates his Fifth Amendment right of self-incrimination.
Yeah,
that is an incredible defense. It's just like, yeah, sure, you found the murder weapon in my hand, but you're not allowed to take that because that's very incriminating evidence.
I don't have to testify against myself, and by that I mean hand you the knife so you can present it in court as evidence of me having committed this murder. So no, I will not hand you the knife. Sir, you can't hold on to the knife forever. Eventually you'll let go of the knife, and then we're going to take it. Oh yeah, what if I cut you with it? Then that's another crime. But if I...
Good on proving it, nerd, with that knife.
Exactly. So yeah, Michael Flynn's very inventive understanding of the Fifth Amendment, from everything I've read online, is not going to work, to the shock of absolutely nobody.
I do love that Kyle Rittenhouse is part of the cabal. Good for him.
Yes. Hey,
welcome to the cabal, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump's now part of the cabal to half of QAnon, or at least I would say about 25% of QAnon. 75% still loves their orange daddy, and there's nothing he could do to make them mad.
Well, then the next time Kyle Rittenhouse does a Stone Cold intro, so people can throw some cans of adrenochrome that he can just chug on stage in front of everyone. Now that he's like a cabal plant.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be so good.
Anyway, speaking of cabal plants, do we want to go to our wonderful mailbag?
That sounds like a plan to me.
Our listeners got questions, we got answers. It's time for Q&A.
So we open up this week with the nerdy horror fan asking, "Good day, gentlemen." Karma's here, so how dare you? How dare you?
Oh my God, QAnon confirmed, claiming Karma's a man. QAnon confirmed.
Exactly. Do you think horror movies are part of the influence for the mishmash of jumble of nonsense in Q lore? I've seen several horror movies / TV shows in their narrative. They Live, V, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Chud, to name a few. Thank you. Media has always been a big part of like the right-wing worldview. The Illuminati, New World Order stuff this has always been a big part of like their narrative that if Hollywood does something that they think like conforms to what their view of the world is, they'll say, "Oh, that movie was Hollywood telling on itself," and they'll get into that whole thing about how the predictive programming is trying to control you so they can get what they want, or that they love the Matrix thing where they have to give you a choice, even if it's subconscious, for you to accept what's going on. And once you subconsciously accept what they're doing to you, they're allowed to keep doing it. So, yeah,
like inviting a vampire in,
right? Exactly,
and that is one of any number of pop culture references that I think are popular with people of a certain age. And I believe that age demographic like aligns heavily with a lot of the people in Q's base at the moment. So I think that just general pop media references are incredibly influential and being like co-opted as used for a tool in the digital soldier's arsenal. But I don't think it necessarily is a horror thing. I think like a lot of it is sci-fi with all the Matrix references and the Terminator references. When people are activated, they're just like stalking people. So I think it's just, you know, whatever pop culture touchstone would play with somebody between the ages of like 27 and 45, I think is going to be incredibly lucrative, gold pan in country for QAnon people that are interested in maybe dredging up some incels.
right. Like, I mean, in the last episode of What We Do Out of Shadows, which is great, you should all subscribe so you can listen to it. In Out of Shadows, they talked about Zoolander being part of the programming. I mean, anything. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas brought up adrenochrome, which is probably where most of them got that from. So they'll take it. They'll take it from anywhere. Anywhere they can get it, they'll grab it and they'll run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Karma's nodding of assent to our answers.
Well, yeah, I agreed with it all.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, you guys both pretty much nailed it.
Yeah. So thank you for the question, nerdy horror fan. Here's Cleodora Silvestri, or whose last name I can never get right.
You got so close there, bud.
I know.
Except you weren't close at all because it's Silvestri.
Silvestri. Oh, I'm gonna write that down phonetically for next week. Or I'm just gonna say Cleodora because that's the part I can get right. The question is, since Christmas time is upon us and classic animated holiday specials are always such a treat, can you recommend a streaming service where I can watch the latest Peanuts movie? It's the great JFK Jr., Charlie Brown. I think that many people have made the Great Pumpkin / Great Awakening joke when it comes to QAnon, waiting for the big payoff, because QAnon is Linus. They are being mocked and derided by all the other kids, and they are holding out their faith, and then in the end, they're just wrong. There is no Great Pumpkin. Everyone else is just right. But
I don't know if Cleodora did this on purpose, but it's actually so we ran into a very particular problem when Sarge and I were recording Binge-Worthy this week. And that problem is last week we've been doing Christmas movies or Christmas properties. So last week we were just like, all right, cheese for the next episode. We're going to do the Rankin Bass specials. We're going to be watching some Rudolph and some like Little Drummer Boy and all that stuff. Just both of us not checking if they were available on streaming, assuming that they were so ubiquitous they would have to be. And we were totally wrong. Like, they were incredibly difficult to find on streaming, to the point where instead we both just talked about Spider-Man because that was what we were both able to watch. So, no, I can't recommend any good streaming site for this new Charlie Brown special, The Great JFK Jr. Return or whatever, because it probably wouldn't be streaming. That would be too convenient for podcasters like me.
That has to be super frustrating that just like really obvious things that have been around for like 50 million years, somehow the rights to that just haven't been secured by somebody so they can put it on their streaming service. That's like really kind of mind-blowing that's something that happens in our modern world.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it was what it was. Honestly, I would have much rather have talked about Spider-Man, because Spider-Man probably more exciting and less disconcerting than something like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That movie's that movie's pretty messed up in some spots.
I bet. I mean, anything old like that is probably going to have some ooh, okay kind of moments going for it.
Yeah, I'm surprised with like how much darkness there are in a lot of Christmas movies. Like very few Christmas movies are just like a holly jolly good time. It was something like Frosty the Snowman. Like at one point, the hat comes off the snowman and he dies again.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh shit, Frosty's dead.
Yeah.
There must have been some magic in the old cell cat we found, because once we took it off his head, he died.
Yeah, that would be definitely a sign of magical power, because that hat kept him alive, and then after the hat came off, not so much.
And what's his face? Tim Allen admitted at some point that when they were originally making that movie, The Santa Claus. So in the movie that we got, Santa Claus falls off the roof and dies. In the original version, Tim Allen was supposed to suspect Santa was a burglar and shoot him, and then he was going to fall off the roof and die. And I guess Disney was just like, hey, you can't open this movie by having the main character murder Santa.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, God.
Yeah, man. It turns out like Christmas is a pretty magical, joyous time of year.
Yeah,
But there is an undercurrent of slick darkness to it.
Karma, do you have any dark Christmas for us?
I'm not a fan of Christmas at all. I'm more like the Grinch at Christmas.
Aha. Hey.
So those are two different things, because the Grinch wasn't passively against Christmas. He actively wanted to ruin other people's Christmas.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to ruin anyone else's. I just want the day to just be over and done with.
So you're more of a Scrooge.
Yeah, it's just, I don't think I was always like that, but, I just feel like it's just another day, and I don't know. I'm not a fan.
Can I interest you in being visited by 3 ghosts this night?
I'm like, people invite me and I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'll just stay home for the day. Thanks.
I mean, like I'm pretty lackadaisical in my celebration of the Christmas season, because I'm a secular chap, and I use it as an opportunity to have like a couple of planned gatherings with friends that I don't see very frequently. Luckily, I am blessed with a very small family, so I have a very small amount of family obligations. So Christmas is kind of rad for me, because the only people I spend time with, for the most part, are the ones that I'm choosing to spend time with.
Yeah.
So thank you for the question. Snorlax CPAP asks, who do you think has the most insane eye bleach on their phone from January 6th, folks? MTG, Bobert, or Gosar? Also, L should catch a congressional subpoena for his bad barbecue stance. Hashtag lock him up. Hashtag Texas barbecue.
Well, I'll start off by saying that everything is bigger in Texas, including the amount of disappointment one experiences when tasting Texas barbecue. Boom, got him. Secondly, I mean, it depends on your definition of eye bleach. I feel like, I mean, if you just think like, if you're considering it incriminating shit, then I would say, like, it would be a pick'em. If you were saying like incriminating sexy stuff, I would just have to say that the guy, almost certainly, because guys are just terrible. But of the 2 women, probably Bobert. She seems like the sort of person who might have a Snapchat account. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If we're going incriminating, it's probably Bobert, because like Bobert was like live tweeting the insurrection as it was happening. She was the one who was saying like Pelosi's just been taken off the floor. So I mean, like, she was the one that seemed to be like actively trying to like coordinate with the attackers to like let them know where like in her mind what would be the highest value target. She probably didn't know in real time that the crowd was actually chanting "Hang Mike Pence" as they were like breaking down the doors. So probably that would be the case there. And As for barbecue, I'm a Philistine. I love all barbecue. I will have to actually have a pilgrimage where I do Kansas City barbecue and I do Texas barbecue, and I actually can like compare and contrast and come up with a verdict. Because
Well, if you're going to do that, you also need to hit Memphis and Carolina. Those are the
aha.
other.
Okay,
Those
this will be a very involved road trip, but that
Hey man, I don't make the rules. Those are where the barbecue is good.
Hey, when we're podcast millionaires, this will be part of the. We will do live events that were exclusively designed to allow us to sample excellent barbecue. So.
I think that it's hard to go too wrong with barbecue. Although the Northeast does do a pretty good job of doing barbecue almost wrong enough to not be worth eating at all. They're like thick, terrible molasses sauce. No, thank you.
Yeah,
but generally, any barbecue is going to be good. But I feel like Texas needs to stop trying to act proud about its barbecue. They talk a big barbecue game, and they're just like, "Hey, how was your meal? Wasn't it great?" And you just be like, "Well, there sure was a lot of it." And they're like, "Boy, howdy, sounds like you loved it. Here's your bill." And then they take away from that you think the barbecue is great when it's not.
Did you were you saying something, Karma? Sorry, I heard like a skip on the background.
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, cool.
Wow, Mike he's starting to lose it. He needs another re-up of his adrenochrome supply.
Yes, I need a
you're running out of Cabal juice.
Yes, I need another booster of the adrenochrome. These QAnon people think that 4 boosters of the vaccine is going to make us like quit because it's too inconvenient. They have no idea how many shots of adrenochrome I need to get through a day. They have no idea. So I mean, just 4 boosters in a year, that's nothing. That's a walk in the park. Oh man. So thank you for the question. Reverend Xenofact asks, from Fox News to Cawthorn, it seems like threats against Fauci are ramping up and the Q crazies want blood. What are the odds some crazy tries to harm him, and who will bring the false flag? Who will call false flag first? The answer for false flag is whoever is closest to a keyboard when news that there was an attack on Fauci's been made. Like that will be immediate. They will because these people are absolutely blameless for all of the violence they are inciting. Just absolutely, completely. It's not their fault that they are calling all of their enemies murderous, psychopathic pedophiles who harm children. They're the ones just putting the pressure cooker on the oven and then just cranking that thing up to the highest level possible. And when stuff goes wrong, they're like, hey, I didn't do any of that. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say anything. That was a false flag by the deep state. They will never accept blame for anything. I mean, that's their defense on 1/6 for crying out loud. We saw hundreds of people storm the Capitol, and they were like, oh, yeah, that was all Antifa. That was all Soros-paid bad guys. So, no. Like, they are completely incapable of accepting responsibility for anything they do. The odds of anything happening to Fauci, I don't think they're that good because Fauci has actual security. And for the most part, these people are cowards. I mean, like, if they're going to do something, it's going to be like, it's going to be someone who just loses their mind and attacks like a place where they can just inflict damage without threat of immediately retaliation. They're not going to attack someone who actually has security around them because that's just not how they operate. They don't have the nerve to do something like that. I don't think. I
feel like the odds are certainly above 0, which is unfortunate because they should be 0.
Yes.
Like, I feel like under normal world circumstances, with people being even slightly reasonable, nobody would ever try to do anything to Dr. Fauci because why would you? But
right.
We live in HellwQrld, and in HellwQrld, anything is possible, and especially violence against random people.
Yeah, like that. That I had that tweet yesterday about that guy that was like basically like all about unlocking your third eye and all that stuff, and like the next thing you know, he's like ranting and raving about Fauci being a murderous psychopath. That guy, like for 10 minutes, would not shut up about. He was like, Fauci said, "I am the science." Can you believe someone saying that? There's no scientist who would ever say that. Science is about questioning things. You can't have all the answers. Can you believe this, guys? I mean, he was literally trying to rile up this entire poker table into being angry at Fauci and I'm the science, and it was so wild. I'm just.
I really hope that somebody really crushed that guy in a giant pot, and it was just like, I am the science, like, raking it towards him.
Yeah, actually, sadly, that guy just like literally folded for the entire half hour that I was dealing and was whining that we didn't have bigger action for him. And then one person, we started a new table, and one guy from our table got up and walked over to that other table, and then that guy got angry about that guy getting up and walking away. He's like, that guy probably got up and walked away because of what I was saying, but I wasn't saying anything political. I'm not political, bro. And it's like, no, you just called like the head, like health advisor to the president, a psychopathic murderer. Yeah, you're totally apolitical, dude. Like everyone wants to listen to what you're saying, and also you don't know why that guy got up and left. He might have got up and left because this table sucks, and the last 4 pots were like under $30 each, and you might want some action. I mean, like it was just, oh god, it was hilarious.
Oh, it sounds like a real hoot.
Oh, you're just listening to people like that. It's like, yep. If I ever think to myself that the world like sees things the way I do, all I have to do is go to work, and I get like a nice like a splash of cold water on my face. That I'm in the white man's club, and the white man club is where white men get to talk to each other openly about all kinds of horrible, weird shit. And it's like, oh wow, yep, this is our world. This is our world, and this is what really happens when white dudes think they can speak freely to other white dudes because we're all just bros, right? Hey.
You should infiltrate this secret white bro club to make ever more money. Surely, with so many white men being around, there has to be some money to be made.
Oh yeah, there definitely is. There absolutely is. So yeah, I hope nothing happens to Fauci, but if it does, rest assured QAnon will never in a million years accept any blame for it. So thank you for that question. The nerdy horror fan is trying to sneak a second question in here. So this is your one and only chance you can do this. Oh, nerdy horror fan, you don't get doubles anytime after this. I'm revoking your doubles privilege. But he said, ran out of room on the last tweet. But just wanted to ask if you've heard about any of the Q-influenced horror movies that are being released, aka the Pizzagate Massacre and the Scary of 61st. I have not heard about the Scary of 61st. I have seen the trailers for the Pizzagate Massacre, and that seems like super bizarre and meta. And it's one of those things where, like, I know how normies would react to the Pizzagate Massacre movie, but my brain is one of those things where I'm like, is this a good thing? Question mark.
That's why we will leave our viewing of that safely locked behind Patreon subscriber goals.
Yes.
And that means that, if it ever comes to having to watch those things, we will at least be, in theory, getting paid to do it. So
yes.
That'll make us feel a lot better.
Yes, absolutely. And finally, Pancake Peasant asks, is it ethical to lust after HellwQrld's voice in the same way that he lusts for Janet O's? Asking on behalf of many in the pancake community.
It's not ethical. I'm not going to be the one to yuck your yum. So, you do, as long as everybody involved is safe and consenting, you can lust after whatever. I guess I'm the one who has to give you. So yes, I will give you consent to be into my voice. Boom. There you go. Consent granted.
I hope that makes it better and not worse for them. I hope the pancake community was just like, yeah, I wanted it to kind of be like this weird, awkward thing where Elle wasn't into it. We were kind of like trying to drag him into accepting his sexy voice, his sexiness. Like,
the problem is, like, I've lived my whole life. So somebody actually, I said this to somebody that I was talking to via text at one point, but I will reiterate the point here. I've always thought that my voice was pretty average, and I understand that that's just a function of hearing yourself, which you don't normally do. But I still maintain that people are probably more entertained generally by my manner of speaking versus the actual texture of my voice. But who knows? Maybe an ASMR consent granted is actually what some people want. So there's your ringtone if you're one of those people.
that's a racket Karma needs to get into now. Also, a soft voiced lady with an Aussie accent, I bet, would definitely trigger some ASMR people, and they'd be like,
I mean, it certainly seems better than like a generically like American accent. I don't really feel like there are a lot of people champing at the bit for American accent. It's so ubiquitous because of pop culture.
Yes. So that wraps up our actual slate of questions. So I'll actually ask the question and numerous of the week, which is, what are you looking forward to? Karma is looking forward to just painful silence and awkwardness.
Yeah, I don't know. Not going back to work. I know I'm not looking forward to that next year, but I'm just looking forward to having a break. To be honest.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm getting a break. I'm on my Christmas break from work, but because of what I'm doing, I'm not really getting a break.
You are so deep in the negative 48 weeds that, yeah, it's like you're going to need a vacation from your vacation when work picks back up for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
well, I hope you get to take one. Treat yourself, as the kids say.
Yes.
Well, if it all ends real soon, then I might actually get a break.
Yeah.
Hopefully they just won't re-up their Hyatt and Airbnb rents, and then they'll just have to scatter, and that'll be that. It'll be an interesting but forgettable footnote on the QAnon conspiracy family tree.
Yeah, so Karma is looking forward to the end of the occupation of Dallas by negative 48 and his crew. So, yeah.
I'm excited, weirdly, for a little thing that fans of QAnon and fans of the Adventures of HellwQrld, even including Mr. Mike Rains, can all agree on: The Matrix. Oh yeah, last week, excited for Spider-Man, saw that. It was a blast. Now, it's The Matrix. Oh yeah, time to get it done. And at some point, I'm going to see if I could rope Mike Rains into going to a theatrical Matrix experience. We're going to be just flying defiantly in the face of the Omicron variant to see people get pilled. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Yeah, that The Matrix was what I'm looking forward to as well. I was talking to one of my friends who is an even bigger Matrix fan than I am, and we were just this movie to me just has so many questions about it, because the main question for me is, what is this story going to be? Is it going to be a beat for beat retelling of the first movie? Because I mean, the trailers kind of indicate that we're on a path similar to that. And if they're doing that, why did they not get Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving back in their roles? Like I saw like something where it seemed like Lawrence was kind of like annoyed that he wasn't in this movie, but
unless he is,
that would be interesting. Hey, that'd be. I hope that happens. I hope they get the fan service of seeing those guys, but I just really wonder what the story is going to be. It's going to be very interesting to see how they play it. I wonder if this movie is going to be on the one hand, I would almost love for the movie to be like kind of self-contained, but on the other side, I kind of know how these movies operate now, so I feel like the ending's going to be kind of open-ended, so we can do sequels, which was kind of where The Matrix went off the rails aggressively last time. So my curiosity is piqued. Like, I don't exactly know where my expectations are. They're probably somewhere between low to mid, but I do want to see where it hits. I want to see where this lands. So after this podcast, me and Elle are probably going to have to coordinate our viewing experience of this movie. So
we're going to have to coordinate traveling through physical space, maybe to do a little making of Italian motion. You know the one, looking at you with the Italian motion.
Yes.
To signify slurping down some pasta, the way of our forefathers.
Yes.
Good stuff. Well, I'm glad that we're both excited about the same thing, and I hope that Karma gets to be excited about some actual time off from the madness that is our world, which is HellwQrld, which it is time for us to leave for this week. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Big, tremendous thank you to Karma for being our wonderful guest host. So at this, the time of our shilling, the top of it, is there anything that you would like to plug? Any place people you would like to direct people to go, possibly to your personal Twitter page?
No, not really. I'm good. I think it's that time of the morning. It's 6:40 a.m. here. I've been up for about 5 hours now. So you know where I'm going to go and head to bed for a few hours.
Fair enough. Well, hey, that's the sort of humility you love to see in 2021, almost 2022. So thank you again, Karma, for joining us for another episode of the show. And thank you, the people hearing these sweet, sweet audio waves, for listening. Your support means the world to us. You can continue to support the show by telling a friend or leaving a 5-star review. Or if you have some money that you would like to throw our way, you can become a beautifuler baby by subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/pokerpolitics, where anyone who is donating $5 or more per month gets access to a slate of bonus content that we are providing, including wrapped-up series such as Cabalin and The Foulest Deed, and ongoing series such as What We Do Out of Shadows, which is being recorded and dropped weekly as we speakly. So for $5 or more a month, you could become a beautifuler baby and enjoy that slate of bonus content, just like our heroic beautifuler babies for the week. So a special thank you to Eric Hade Delver, who I hope revealed a brainstorm or something else juicy when they flipped, and Aussie Skeptic. Thank you guys so much for joining the Beautifuler Baby Club. That officially puts us at 70 of 69. We have completed our Patreon goal for the end of the year. So that means that the crew will be getting together for another Adventures in HellwQrld cross binge-worthy episode where we will be watching Reno 911, The Hunt for QAnon, and expressing our feelings about such a thing. So look forward to that sometime in the new year. And thank you, everybody, very much for your support. If you have money and you don't want to give it to us, we totally understand. If you'd like to do some good with it, you can give it to love146.org. They're an organization whose vision is the end of child trafficking and exploitation. And, the podcast officially endorses trying to put an end to those things. Just like always, I'd like to thank DJ Minimal Effort for our wonderful intro song. He still remains too cool for social media. Not too cool for social media is Frosty, the person who gave us our sweet, sweet content warning and is the voice of Q and all of our bumps. You can find them on Twitter at FrostyVO. If you can't get enough of myself and our buddy Sarge when we are together yucking it up, you can listen to our spinoff podcast about all things pop media at Bingewordy, which you can find wherever podcasts are provided, and on Twitter at Bingewordy. That's BINGEWORDY. So for another successful episode of the Adventures at HellwQrld podcast, I am HellwQrld, signing off for our incredible guest host. Thank you once again to Karma, and for our wonderful expert in all things QAnon, Mr. Mike Rains. Good speed, Patriots!